Hey everyone, Jordan here at Totally Bored, and in this video, I'll be ranking all of the board games in my board game collection. Two quick things to note before we get started. The first thing is that I'll be doing what I call a frequency tier list, and all this means is games in the higher tiers, like S for example, are games that I always want to play, whereas games in the lower tiers, like D for example, are games that I rarely want to play or are just more situational. The second thing is that I will be going in order based on when I bought these games, so we'll start with the first game I ever bought, and that is Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion. So back in September of 2022, that was when I first was really kind of getting into board gaming as a hobby. I didn't have any board games yet, but I was really interested in trying them out. And what I was looking for was something that ticked the boxes of what I love when it comes to video games. So things like action RPGs, dungeon crawlers like Diablo, for example, open world stuff like Skyrim, and Gloomhaven just fit that to a T. I eventually came across Jaws of the Lion, which is a cheaper option and was a little more, it was an easier pick for me. I didn't have to go out and spend like $150 on the big box. So I ended up picking it up. I invited a friend over and we played it for like 4 hours, played through several different scenarios, and my mind was blown because Gloomhaven showed me what was really possible when it comes to a tabletop or board game. You have the item shop, you have your specific character classes, each with their own unique powers, and the card system is so fluid, and it really makes you feel attached to your character as well as your team composition. And yeah, all in all, I mean, the game just, it shattered my expectations for what board gaming can be, and really set the bar high. And with all of that being said, Gloomhaven is a game that I always am in the mood to play. I'm only about halfway through Jaws of the Lion, but I'm always down to teach new players. I'm down to play it with the friends I've been playing with the last 5 months. So with that being said, Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion is going right into that S tier. The number 2 spot is going to Terraforming Mars. So after playing Gloomhaven, I was obsessed with board games already at this point, and I was super eager to see what else was out there in the board game realm. And so, after doing some research on Board Game Geek's top 100 list, watching YouTube videos, going on forums like Reddit and so on, I was hearing a lot about Terraforming Mars. And so I kind of took a gamble on it, as I did with Gloomhaven. The theme wasn't really interesting to me. I didn't even look at pictures of the game, which is kind of stupid, but I literally just heard it was really good, bought it. And actually the first time that I was hosting my board game night, my first board game night, we were planning to play Gloomhaven, and 2 of my buddies came over, and like 10 minutes after they showed up, Amazon came through and delivered Terraforming Mars to my house. And, I opened it, showed it to him, and one of my friends was like, man, that looks really cool. Why don't we just play that instead tonight? And so what we did was we threw on a YouTube tutorial, and we spent, so they came over at like 2 p.m., and we stayed up until, I think, 9 or 10 p.m. So like the whole time, like 8 hours, we were playing Terraforming Mars, and it was awesome. I had no idea what to expect going into the game, but it is an engine builder kind of resource management game. There's so many moving parts. I felt like I was in an accounting job, but I really enjoyed it, and I can tell the replay value is insane with this game. Every single game I've played just feels so different from one another, and overall this game is excellent. The only reason this is not going to go into the S tier is because I'm learning that I'm not a huge fan of these kind of multiplayer solitaire games, and I do know that Terraforming Mars is actually quite a bit better than other multiplayer solitaire games. There is more interaction among players with the central main board, but you do at the end of the day have your own board that you're really focused on in your own engine that you're trying to build up. But despite that, this is still going in the A tier. This is a game that I'm almost always in the mood to play, and I absolutely love this game. Terraforming Mars in that A tier. Flying in at number 3, we have Wingspan. At this point, I had only tried Gloomhaven and Terraforming Mars, both of which are pretty, crazy nerdy themes. So I was looking for something else that might appeal to some of my other non-gamer friends or, my family, like my mom and my dad. And came across Wingspan. It's hugely successful, very, very popular game. Bought it, and played it with my mom and dad. They're in their mid 60s, which is age doesn't really matter, but they're also not really gamers. So that first playthrough was pretty rough. It took us like 3 days to finally finish it. We were basically doing like one round at a time. Halfway through, my dad stopped playing because he wasn't interested, and so my first impressions of the game were not very strong. Honestly, that was probably initially going to be like in the D tier, but I did play it again over the holidays. Played it with my mom, my sister, and another friend, and they were a lot more enthusiastic about it and super interested in the birds and the art, and it made the whole experience just that much better. I will say this is, like I mentioned earlier, I'm not too crazy about these multiplayer solitaire games. I really love the player interaction, whether it be a versus or cooperative game, but I digress. Wingspan is a great game. I am often in the mood to play this, so with that being said, Wingspan is going in that B tier. The fourth spot is going to Catan. So at this point, I had 3 relatively medium to heavyweight games, and I was looking for something a little more approachable for some of my non-gamer friends, and there's really no other better game than Catan. And so I ended up picking this up, played it with my mom and my dad. They had a way better time than with Wingspan, and overall, Catan is an excellent game for new players. When it comes to my collection and my impressions of the game or my feelings towards it, it is not a game that I really want to play that often. A lot of the other games in my collection take up a lot more of my time and interest me more at this point. But Catan is still a great game. Despite that, it is going to go into the D tier. Number 5, we have Ticket to Ride. So this is very similar to Catan. I ended up finding this game at Barnes & Noble for like $20. And so I picked it up. I heard great things about it. It is similar. It's kind of like a gateway game for new players. It's pretty lightweight. Almost all ages can play it. And it's a fun game. Like I said before with Catan, I don't really want to play this that often unless I'm playing with new board gamers or people who just aren't really gamers themselves. So with that being said, Ticket to Ride is going in the D tier. Coming in at number 6, we have Spirit Island. So this was a few months after I had been playing board games. I was pretty much obsessed at this point. I was trying to play any chance I could, and I was learning that my friends were interested, but they weren't quite as knee-deep into it as I was. So what I started looking for was solo games. I heard about several different games that were amazing, but Spirit Island is, I would say, widely regarded as the best solo experience that you can have when it comes to board gaming. So picked it up, played it, got my butt kicked 1,000 times, and I freaking love this game. It is really, really hard, and that's part of the fun about it. It's one of those games where you always feel like you're losing until the very end when you can edge out a victory. But I'm still a huge noob. I am not even playing with adversaries. I just play on the default, like base 0, level 0 difficulty. But I have a ton of fun with this game, and this is not going in the S tier, and that's for one reason. This game is just really hard to get to the table for me sometimes because it's such a brain burner. Usually when I do have time to play, it's after work, it's after I've gone to the gym, gotten groceries, and so on. So coming back and getting annihilated on Spirit Island can be tough sometimes. It's a tough sell for myself, but the few times I have introduced this to my friends, they love it. It does take a long time. That's another factor that kind of knocks it down just a little bit, but despite all this, it is going in the high A tier. Coming in at number 7, we have Star Wars X-Wing. So I was actually gifted X-Wing at a charity event at my local game store and ended up playing it with a friend of mine who loves Star Wars. He's not really a board gamer at all, but we played this and honestly had a ton of fun with it. You have these little ships with these movement dials where each player is selecting their movement, and then they reveal it, and then you're moving around this battlefield, which is like your table. The whole goal is to be the last fighter standing, and it is a lot of fun. I think there is a ton of replayability because every game you can approach it with a different strategy. You can buy new ships to expand your fleet, and so the possibilities are really endless with this game. I am not a huge fan of Star Wars. So I hope I don't get roasted for that too hard. I do like it, and the game itself is really cool, but I'm not always trying to come back to this game. I'm usually playing this with some of my friends who are really into Star Wars, or if we just want to mix things up and have a shorter game experience. So with that being said, Star Wars X-Wing is going into the B tier. Coming in at number 8, we have Jaipur. Jaipur is a 2-player versus game where you're trying to become the richest merchant in the city of Jaipur by buying and selling different products and commodities in this shop that is in the middle of the play area. And you play the best 2 out of 3. And honestly, this game is absolutely amazing for new players. And I played this with my sister, I played it with my mom, a few friends over the holidays, and everyone loved it. I think it's super approachable, it's really fast paced, and it's pretty short. It only takes about 20 minutes, I would say, for a game. And yeah, this game is a ton of fun for new players. When it comes to me and my collection, it's not really something that I'm always trying to come back to, but I do enjoy it on a pretty regular basis. So with that being said, Jaipur is going in the C tier. 9th up on the list, we have Patchwork Express. Patchwork Express. So this game is weirdly amazing, and you know, obviously from the theme, I did not think I would enjoy this at all, but I ended up playing this with my mom like 20 times over the holidays. It is a really lightweight game where each player has their own personal quilt, and you have these patches that are scattered around the playboard or the play area, and you can shop around and select these different patches, and you put them on your board, and you're trying to avoid having any blank spaces at the end of the game, and the person with the most points wins. It only takes like 15 minutes to play a whole game, and it is seriously incredible. I kind of can't believe how much I like this game, but yeah, tons of replay value. It's super easy to pick up and play. It's a great pick when you don't want to spend, 3 hours playing Gloomhaven or Terraforming Mars. And I really, really enjoy Patchwork. I am almost always in the mood to play it. And with that being said, it is going into the A tier. 10th up on the list, we have Marvel Champions. So at this point, my collection really only consisted of Spirit Island and Terraforming Mars when it came to really, really solid solo games. And I was really still in the market for some more solo experiences. Terraforming Mars is great, Spirit Island's amazing, but those are both like really, really hard for me. So I wanted something a little bit easier. And when I started doing more research, I very quickly came across Marvel Champions. And so I ended up picking this up, and this game is so freaking good. It is a living card game where each player takes on the role of a specific hero, and you have these enemies that you're trying to fight and defeat, and they even have certain campaigns that you can play through as a story. And yeah, this game is it's one of my favorite games of all time, and it's still very, very highly in the rotation for me. Almost every weekend I'm playing this, and recently started playing with some coworkers, and one of my coworkers in particular just bought every card that's currently out. So I think there's going to be a lot more Marvel Champions in the future for me. But with that being said, Marvel Champions, it's excellent. I'm always in the mood for this. This is going into the S tier. Coming in at number 11, we have Undaunted. So growing up, I was always a huge fan of World War II video games. So games like Medal of Honor Frontline, Call of Duty. So when I was getting into board games, I was really curious to see what options there were when it came to that. And kind of the main ones I was hearing about were Memoir 44 and Undaunted. So I ended up choosing Undaunted because they had it at my local game shop, and ended up buying it, played it with a buddy of mine, fell in love immediately. I knew I was going to love this game, so I went and bought Reinforcements because Reinforcements adds both solo play and up to 4 players, which seemed like a great pick for me. I knew I loved this game. And then shortly after that, the completionist in me wanted to buy North Africa to have the whole thing. And here we are. I have been playing this game every weekend with a friend of mine, and we are loving it. I'm currently getting my butt destroyed, but it's all good. I'm having a good time, and I'm honestly super, super excited to play Stalingrad because that is the campaign variation of the Undaunted game. But I digress. Undaunted is an excellent game. It's something I always want to play, and it's currently always in my rotation. So with that being said, Undaunted is going in the S tier. Coming in at number 12, we have Architects of the West Kingdom. So I got Architects of the West Kingdom on Board Game Geek's Secret Santa in 2022, and I was really excited to play this game because I had never tried a worker placement game. The visuals are beautiful, the artwork's amazing, so I ended up trying this on my birthday, and I played it with 4 other friends. We had a 5-stack, and yeah, we had a ton of fun. It was a little bit overwhelming just because I didn't have experience, managing 20 different meeples. So a little overwhelming, but had a good time. I've only played this once, so that is going to factor in when it comes to where I'm placing this. I do think if I play this again and kind of learn more of the strategy behind it, it will go up. But at the present time, this game is going to be in the B tier. 13th on the list, we have Raccoon Tycoon. Raccoon Tycoon is a lightweight auction style game where players are trying to buy and sell different commodities. You're trying to raise and lower the prices. You can do things like buy buildings and towns. The artwork is freaking adorable. The mechanics are great. Tons of player interaction. This game is honestly super fun. It has been in really heavy rotation in the last few game nights I've had because I've been playing with a lot of new players. When it comes to my collection, I'm really not trying to play it that much unless I'm playing with new players. So this is going to be going in the B tier. Next up on the list, we have Horrified. Horrified is a game where each player takes on the role of a unique hero, and you're trying to rid the town of these famous monsters. For example, Bigfoot, Chupacabra, the Ozark Howler in the American Monsters version, which is what I have. And this game offers a ton of replayability. There's a ton of player interaction. You have to work together to solve these unique puzzles for each individual monster. And then, there can be up to like 4 or 5 monsters on the board at one time, so it can just be complete chaos. And overall, it's an excellent time, especially for new players, or if you want to have a family game night with you and your kids. This is a solid choice. When it comes to me and my collection, I'm really not trying to play it that much. I do prefer some of the nerdier, heavier games, but Horrified is still a solid pick. But with that being said, this is going into the high C tier. And the final spot goes to The Crew Mission Deep Sea. The Crew Mission Deep Sea is a trick-taking game, so similar to Spades or Hearts if you've ever played those, except this is a cooperative game. So you are working together with your team, and you're trying to complete these tasks that are assigned before the round starts, and you cannot communicate to other players about the cards in your hand, except with one sonar token that you can use to place on one card in your hand. So it makes communication really tricky. So once you're locked in and the round has started, you have to be really careful and strategize together silently on how you're going to complete these tasks. And man, this game has been a huge hit at the last few game nights I've had. It's really fast paced. It's pick up and play. I mean, it takes like 20 minutes or less per mission, and you can play through, I think there's 32 in the game, so you can play through a couple of them, you can play through one, you can play through however many you want, and it just never gets old, at least for me. And yeah, this game is something that I'm really loving so far, and I think it's only going to keep getting better. So with that being said, The Crew Mission Deep Sea is going in the S tier. And that is my tier list for all of the board games in my board game collection. I've been playing now for about 5 months, so I may do another video here when I hit the year mark and see how big my collection has grown. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you thought this list was absolutely trash, please tell me why in the comments. Tell me what you think should be changed, what should be higher, what should be lower. But overall, hope you guys had a good time. This is Jordan here at Totally Bored. I'll see you next time.